is one of the few isolated poems in this collection, One Big Self, Prisoners of Louisiana, and it's very short, but I just felt like I was touching that, touching the core of the loneliness that goes with long-term incarceration. That it's inescapable, as is the situation. Mac trapped a spider kept in a pepper jar. He named her Iris. Caught roaches to feed her. He loved Iris. When Iris died, he wrote her a letter. The title that pleased me, I don't know what it came from now. This poem was influenced by a poem of John Wiener's, though I no longer know what that poem was. But it sort of inspired this one. Our Dust. I am your ancestor. You know next to nothing about me. There is no reason for you to imagine the rooms I occupied or my heavy hair, nor the faint vinegar smell of me, or the rubber damp of Forrest and I coupling on the landing en route to our detached day. You didn't know my weariness, error, incapacity. I was the poet of shadow work in towns with quarter-inch phone books, of failed roadside zoos, the poet of yard eggs and sharpening shops, jobs at the weapons plant and the Maybelline factory on the Penitentiary Road. A poet of spiderwort and jacks in the pulpit, hollyhocks against the tool shed, an unsmiling dark blonde, the one with the trowel in her handbag. I dug up protected and private things, that sort I was. My graves went undecorated and my churches abandoned. This wasn't planned, but practice. I was the poet of short-tailed cats and yellow line paint, of satellite dishes and Peterbilt trucks, red man chewing tobacco, triple-hit cream soda. Also of dirt daubers, night crawlers, martin houses, honey and whetstones from the Navaculite uplift. I had registered dogs for sale, rocks, dung, and straw. I was a poet of hummingbird hives along with red-headed stepbrothers, the poet of good walking shoes and necessity and vernacular parts, and push mowers. The rumor that I was once seen sleeping in a refrigerator box is false. He was a brother who hated me. Nor was I the one lunching at the governor's mansion. I didn't work off a grid or prime the surface if I could get off without it. I made simple music out of sticks and string. On side B of me, experimental guitar, night repairs, and suppers such as this. You could count on me to make a bad situation worse, like putting liquid makeup over a passion mark. I never raised your rent, or anyone else's, by God. Never said I loved you. The future gave me chills. I used the medium to say arise, arise, and come together. Free your children. Come on, everybody. Let's start with Baltimore. Believe me, I am not being modest when I admit my life doesn't bear repeating. I agreed to be the poet of one life, one death alone. I have seen myself in the black car. I have seen the retreat of the black car. This was this collection called Tremble. This was when I decided I was tired of being a country narrative poet and I was going to be a lyric poet. I was going to be urban air. And so I tried to distill my language and see if I could get a little closer to that white lyric bone of my language. And this is a poem called Floating Trees. A bed is left open to a mirror. A mirror gazes long and hard at a bed. Light fingers the house with its own acoustics. One of them writes this down, one has paper. Bed of swollen creeks and theories and coils, bed of eyes and leaky pens. Much of the night the air touches arms, arms extend themselves to air, their torsos turning toward a roll of sound, thunder. Night of coonscat and vandalized headstones, night of deep kisses and catamania. His face by this light, saurian, hers ash like the tissue of a hornet's nest. One scans the aisle of furs, the faint blue line of them. One looks out, sans serif. Didn't I hear you tell them you were born on a train? What begins with a sough and ends with a groan, groan in which the tongue's true color is revealed. The comb sough and the denim's undeniable rub, the chairs stripped back and muddied roan, color of stone soup and garden gloves, color of meal and treacle and sphagnum. Hangers clinging to their coat, a soft white bulb to its string. The footprints inside us iterate the footprints outside. The scratched words return to their sleeves. The dresses of Monday through Friday swallow the long hips of weekends. A face is studied like a key for the mystery of what it once opened. I didn't mean to wake you, angel brains. Ink of eyes and veins in phonemes, the ink completes the feeling. A mirror silently facing a door with no lock, no lock. The room he brings into you, the room befalls you. Like the fir trees, he trues her, she nears him like the firs. If one vanishes, one stays. If one stays, the other will or will not vanish. Otherwise, my beautiful green fly, otherwise not a leaf stirs. This is also from Tremble. The Song of the Gourd. In gardening, I continued to sit on my side of the car, to drive whenever possible at the usual level of distraction. In gardening, I shat nails, glass, contaminated dirt, and threw up on the new shoots. In gardening, I learned to praise things I had dreaded. I pushed the hair out of my face. I felt less responsible for one man's death, one woman's long-term isolation. My bones softened. In gardening, I lost nickels and ring settings. I uncovered buttons and marbles. I laid half the worm aside and sought the rest. I sought myself in the bucket and wondered why I came into being in the first place. In gardening, I turned away from the television and went around smelling of offal, the inedible parts of the chicken. In gardening, I said Excelsior. In gardening, I required no company. I had to forgive my own failure to perceive how things were. I went out bare-legged at dusk and dug and dug and dug. I hit rock, my ovaries softened. In gardening, I was protean as in no other realm before or since. I longed to torch my old belongings and belch a little flame of satisfaction. In gardening, I longed to stroll farther into soundlessness. I could almost forget what happened many swift years ago in Arkansas. I felt like a god from down under, Thonian. In gardening, I thought, this is it, body and soul. I am home at last, Excelsior, praise the grass. In gardening, I fled the fold that supported the war. Only in gardening could I stop shrieking, stop the slaughter. Only in gardening could I press my ear to the ground to hear my soul let out an unyielding noise. My lines softened. I turned the water into the joy-filled boy-child. Only in gardening did I feel fit to partake, to go on trembling in the last light. I confess the abject urge to weed your beds while the bittersweet overwhelmed my daylilies. I summoned the courage to grin. I climbed the hill with my bucket and slept like a dipper in the cool of your body, besotted with growth, shot through by green. So I will read another poem of couplets. So I'll read again from Tremble. And this poem is called Key Episodes from an Earthly Life. As surely as there are crumbs on the lips of the blind, I came for a reason. I remember when the fields were no taller than a pencil. Do you remember that? I told him I've got socks older than her, but he would not listen. You will starve out, girl, they told her, but she did not listen. As surely as there is rice in the cuffs of the priest, sex is a factor, not a fact. Everything I do is leaning toward what we came for. Is that perfectly clear? I like your shoes, your uncut hair. I like your use of space, too. I wanted to knock her lights out. The air cut in and did us some good. One thing about my television set, it has a knob on it enabling me to switch channels. Now it is your turn to shake or provoke or heal me. I won't say it again. Do you like your beets well cooked and chilled, even if they make your gums itch? Those dark Arkansas roads, that is the sound I am after, the choiring of crickets. Around this time of year, especially evening, I love everything. I sold enough eggs to buy a new dress. I watched him drink the juice of our beets and render the light liquid. I came to talk you into physical splendor. I do not wish to speak to your machine. Color of stone soup and garden gloves, color of meal and treacle and sognum. I can't do it. Ah! Color of meal and treacle and sognum. Ah. Sphagnum. I guess we'll have to do it again.
We'll have to do it again.
Okay.